Welcome to the second video that I'm creating for our TRA pensions. Today's video is basically going to try and explain what is happening and why we are so upset with some of the things that are happening with our TRA pension. Some of you may or may not know all the details behind this. I'm going to try and give you my best guess as to what's happening and with the information I've been given and why we're fighting so hard to get these benefits to be changed. In the last legislative session, we had a bill that went through and passed, both Senate and House, and then the governor signed, that reduced the normal retirement age from 66 to 65. And this was a very small step in the right direction, but we were hoping to get way more movement than just 1 year. And to do that, employers and employees had to increase their contributions considerably. And I believe this takes place, or this starts in 2025, I believe it is. What I'd like to do is have you look at this sheet, and I showed this to you before. And this is right here, this column is what the penalties are, and I use penalties, not discounts, for those that have the normal retirement age of 65, which will be the new law in the next couple of years, if you have less than 30 years of service. If you are hired before 2006, these are your percentages of the penalties that you will have if you retire at a certain age. And I believe this right here is 55. Right here is 55, 56. This is 57. This is 58. This is 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. And 65, there's zero penalty because you've now reached the retirement age of 65. And let's say your hire date the first year that you started teaching was in 2000. That makes the math work a little bit easier. All right. And you are 22 years old. You're the first year teacher straight out of college. And you're thinking of a long career, and you're thinking that you're going to do 36 years of teaching. Okay. So what that means is that when we retire, you're going to be 58 years old. All right, when you're 58 years old, you would have had, with 36 years of teaching, you would have more than 30 years of service. So at 58, you would have a 46% penalty in taking that early. Let's say you're after 36 years of teaching, you're going to have a 46% reduction. They call it reductions, but I say penalty, in what you will be able to take home. So let's do some calculating here. Now to do that, since you started in 2000, there's 6 years from 2000 to 2006. There are 6 years, and those 6 years are before 2006, so that gives you a multiplier of 1.7% per year that you could add on to your retirement. And then from 2006 to roughly 36 years after that, let's figure that out. It's be 2036. There you go. So in 2036, you will have put in 30 years. And that 30 years, that multiplier is 1.9% per year. So I'm going through and doing some calculations. let's say that, so let's calculate what your benefit's going to be. So it's 1.7% times 6, and that gives you 10.2%, and then 1.9% times 30, and that would give you 57%. You add those two together, and you get 67.2% of your high five average. Okay? All right. So here we go. Let's say that your high five is $70,000. We're going to make that easy. Okay? So let's say you've made $70,000 in the biggest 5 years together. So you're going to take $70,000 and you're going to multiply that by your multiplier right there times 67.2%. 70,000 times 0.672. So that would give you, that would equal $47,040 that you would receive annually for your pension benefit. But we have a little problem, and that problem is the penalties that are in place. And we said before that you would be taking a 46% penalty. Okay? That means you take 46% off of your original benefit, right? So I'm not going to explain the math here, but it works out, okay? So if you take 47,040 and we multiply that times 0.54, because that's what you would end up getting, that would be, you would then get a $25,402 benefit annually per year. All right? That's with penalties, after penalties. This is full benefit. Do I need to zoom in on this? $47,040 should be your full benefit. And right now, our TRA says that you can only get $25,000 in benefit per year. You realize that's $22,000 that you're being reduced per year from your benefit per year. When you retire, that extra $22,000 is a big, big deal. Let that sink in. This is full benefit. This is the TRA. This is Rule of 90. Rule of 90 people would get this. This is what Tier 2 people have to do. Because most people at 58 years old, after 36 years of teaching, would have met the Rule of 90. Because if you put in 36 years of teaching and you're 58, that's over the Rule of 90. And you still get penalized severely for having retired early. Look at the other penalties. This is if you retire at age 55. 55. Here, 56. Can you imagine taking that big of a penalty off of your pension? This is huge. This is why we're fighting so hard to get equitable benefits. So there are people right now that are retiring with these benefits right now, right here. They will never, ever get back the lifetime earnings that they could receive if they were to have gotten full benefit versus having to take after penalties. They will never get that back. And so we're fighting so hard to try and just make it equitable for Tier 2 members to have just a similar benefit, right? Can you imagine what it would be like if you were to retire way earlier? So one of the pieces that we're looking at right now is trying to help get legislation through that would help alleviate some of these penalties that are in place right now. This is what our goal is right now. Through our pension advocacy group, this is what we're starting to focus on solely, is all the issues that are surrounding this, because this is where the problem is. And they're not actuarially based, that it's equitable, it's mathematically sound to take that penalty because you're taking it earlier than somebody that should be taking it later. So there's a balancing act there, okay, between the two pieces. On one hand, we're going to take this amount and we're going to take it earlier, right? Versus I'm going to take this amount later and I'm going to get more money later. Those two things have to equal themselves out, and that would be actuarially based. These penalties are not actuarially based. And one of the reasons why is that the legislature in the past put in a provision, I don't know if you saw this, they put in a provision that starts at age 62. If you'll notice, you'll see this little piece of legislation that happened. And they increased the penalties later and reduced them close to retirement if you have more than 30 years of service. That's they call it the 62-30 provision. And that's why they increased the penalties from before, so that it's easier to retire after age 62. So it's a huge cliff. Like if you could stay teaching until you're 62, or don't take it until you're 62 and you've had 30 years of service, then what you can do is then take it after age 62, and you would only pay a 10.4% penalty. But if you took it beforehand and you said, hey, I want to take it at 61, you just now increased your percentage that you're going to be reduced by 18%, 18.4% right here, okay? So that's one of the reasons why they put that in. And we would then have a little bit more equity here. It's closer to equity here, but they stole from Peter to pay Paul kind of thing, right? So they said, we're going to increase penalties down here so that this gets closer to retirement. And we get that, right? But what we're trying to do is, let's say, what if we reduce the penalties across the board by 1 or 2%? What would that look like? How much would this cost? So if we were to say, let's reduce this by 1 or 2% each, and if we reduced it by 2%, wouldn't that then make 65? Wouldn't that basically make 64 the new retirement age, right? If we were to have, because we would be right here, if we reduced it by 2%, our penalty would be 1.18%. Thank you for watching. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.